Howdy, boys and girls. It's the weekly economic update for February 21st, 2022. I hope everybody's having a fantastic Monday out there. It is President's Day, so there's not a whole lot going on in the financial world. I guess if you go to some of your news channels, you might see them talking about Russia, Ukraine, and all the problems supposedly that are going on over there. I personally am not too worried. Looking at it, I don't know. I look at it from, what is the advantage or what benefit would Putin get from a violent assault on another nation? I just don't. I mean, he would get shunned by Western Europe. He would lose out on a lot of his gas production and sales to Germany and a lot of the European nations. Granted, he could sell all that fuel to China. I'm sure they would be more than happy to purchase it from him. So it's not like he's totally out of options. But I look at the situation. I'm like, this seems to be more of a wag the dog situation, like that movie in the late 90s. My wife doesn't seem to remember seeing it. But I remember going and seeing Dustin Hoffman and the like in that movie, and it was kind of telling of what goes on in the media and our government. So anyways, so like I said, I hope everybody has been having a fantastic weekend. There were some good sports. The Cougars won on, what day was that? Yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday morning. They played in Wichita and barely won in double overtime. I mean, I was jumping up and down and screaming and yelling, and I'm sure my doggies didn't like that too much, but all in all, good weekend. Yesterday, I think, was the Daytona 500. I didn't see any of that. What else? Baseball still delayed. So my boys, these are George Springer thumbs ups on my T-shirt here. Still no baseball on the horizon. So it doesn't look like I'm going to be making it down to Houston for opening day. So that kind of stinks. It's hard to plan for a trip if there's no baseball to go watch. And as much as I'd like to see my friends and clients down in Houston, I was going to try and make a dual purpose trip. And right now with that up in the air, it looks like I'm going to probably be parking my butt here on the Front Range in March. So anyways, all right, well, let's go ahead and jump into the weekly update. I don't have any index news because the markets were closed today. So all right, the week on Wall Street. Stocks closed lower for the week as escalating tensions on the Russia-Ukrainian border added to existing jitters over high inflation and a pending tightening of monetary policy. The Dow Jones Industrial Average slid 1.9%. The S&P declined 1.58%. NASDAQ was down 1.76%. And internationals fell 1%. So looks like across the globe, everything was down. Geopolitical tensions. Markets have been skittish in recent weeks due to persistent elevated inflation and the uncertainty over how aggressive the Federal Reserve may be with its monetary tightening. As tensions escalated between Russia and the West over a possible Russian invasion of Ukraine, investors moved away from risk assets such as stocks and sought the safety of the U.S. Treasury bonds. Stocks were hit hard on Thursday as reports surfaced that both sides were exchanging artillery fire. The slide continued on Friday as prospects of diplomatic off-ramp appeared dim. While geopolitical news dominated trading last week, investors were relieved by the FOMC meeting minutes that suggested the Fed may not act any more aggressively than current market expectations. So what was that? Although since this was published or typed up, I saw some news or a headline either late last night or this morning that said that Putin and President Brandon were going to get together and have some sort of talks. Anyways, to me, this is a big nothing burger. I'm not sure why people are all worked up about it. An early economic snapshot. Last week, 3 economic reports provided an update of the state of the economy. The first was the PPI, the Producer Price Index, which suggested that inflationary pressures remain acute. Wholesale prices rose 1% last month and posted a 12-month rise of 9.7%, the latter of which was near a record high. The consumer showed continued strength as retail sales rose a better than expected 3.8%, though some of that gain may be due to higher costs. Meanwhile, industrial production gained 1.4%, nearly triple the consensus expectation. Capacity utilization increased 1%, reaching its highest level since March of 2019. All right. So economic data coming out this week. The Purchasing Managers Index flash and also consumer confidence on Tuesday, which is tomorrow. Thursday, we have GDP and jobless claims, also new home sales. And Friday, we have consumer sentiment, followed by durable goods orders. All right. And a bunch of companies reporting earnings this week. On Tuesday is Home Depot, Palo Alto Networks, Agilent, I'm probably mispronouncing that, Technologies. On Wednesday, we have Lowe's, TJX, like your TJ Maxx companies, eBay, and Booking Holdings. Thursday, we have Block Inc., Dell, VMware, Ingersoll Rand, and Anheuser-Busch InBev. Friday, we have Berkshire Hathaway and EOG Resources. So that's everything there in the weekly update. So, not a terrible week. Things are down slightly. Again, anyone who's been watching my videos or is a client of mine knows that I don't have high expectations for the year simply because the downturn we went through 2 years ago, was completely expected. What was unexpected on my part was the amount of money printing and QE, or quantitative easing, that came along the way that completely boosted up the markets. And most of that money seemed to go into the into big business, and very little of it went down to the little guy who really needed the help. So anyways, all right. Next white paper I got going out is the Retirement Insight for February. All right. This first section, guarding against 4 common money biases. Our attitude about investing, saving, spending, and financial matters are shaped by a variety of influences, both early and later in life. These attitudes can foster some very good habits, ones that may promote smart financial choices, early investment, and accumulation of assets. The downside is that they may also encourage unconscious biases about money, and like many variety of bias, it is wise to acknowledge and be aware of them. 4 common money biases. One is loss aversion, when the fear or worry of losing assets seems out of proportion with the opportunity for gains or asset accumulation. 2, overconfidence, assuming the financial markets nearly always perform well. That's not always true. Or that one's personal financial acumen is infallible. 3 is present bias, which is often seen in consumer behavior, the preference for a material item or a quick financial gain now instead of delayed gratification for possibility of better outcomes years ahead. In the Austrian world, or Austrian economics world, that's high and low time preference. If you have a high time preference, it means you want something now, so you spend all your resources on stuff for today. If you have a low time preference, that means that you're willing to put things off, to the future. For example, those who save 25% of their income every year, that would be someone with a lower time preference who wants to save for the future and isn't as interested in trying to keep up with the Joneses today. Let me jump back in. Lastly, there is a base rate neglect, which is an overreaction to bad or good news that makes a saver or investor lose sight of the worth or risk of a particular investment. Recognizing our potential for these biases may prevent a rash financial decision or two, especially as retirement transition nears or occurs. All right, and there's an article here, or a recipe for easy, healthy banana pancakes for 4. Sounds delicious. All right, next section here. Where are the healthiest places to live? One of these is where I live. Set the pandemic aside for a moment. If keeping healthy ranks as your top priority, it's one of mine, where should you retire or live? You have many choices, of course. One annual study is so bold as to rank hundreds of them, the healthiest community rankings issued by U.S. News. These rankings consider 10 factors, given roughly equal weight: population health, equity, education levels, local economy, affordability of housing, food and nutrition, environment, public safety, community vitality, and infrastructure. Could the healthiest county in the country be Los Alamos, New Mexico? The 2021 survey ranks it number 1 out of 500 U.S. counties. A new edition of the rankings appear each summer. Juneau City and Burrow, Alaska ranked 500 last year. Data collection and analysis for survey comes courtesy of the University of Missouri extension center for applied research and engagement systems, dedicated to understanding natural resource systems, public health risks, and community health assessment. Performed data collection and analysis. Colorado placed 5 counties in the top 10 last year: Broomfield, Douglas County, where I live, Pitkin, Routt, and San Miguel. 2 Virginia counties, Falchurch and Loudoun, Loudoun's been in the news, made the top 10. Howard County, Maryland, and Morgan County, Utah were 2 of the others ranked among the 10 best. So now, if you've ever considered moving to Colorado, there's 5 excellent counties. Douglas is pretty awesome. I really love living here. It's basically the county between the south end of Denver and the north side of Colorado Springs, and it is huge. So it runs from the Platte River on the west all the way over to the middle of nowhere on east of I-25. So it's has very little urban. I mean, the very north part along the south end of Denver, it's an area called Lone Tree and Highlands Ranch. It's kind of like, if you're in Houston, your Clear Lakes or your Katy, your outer suburbs. It's got lots of strip centers, a mall, all that good stuff. But once you get, you drive 5 minutes south of there, and it is nothing but, you got, if you're driving south, you got the range to your right, you got the, all the buttes and, just beautiful terrain. I kind of would relate it to the hill country north of San Antonio, kind of between, like there near Johnson City and Fredericksburg. I mean, lots of rolling hills, and we got a lot of buttes out here. So it's gorgeous. And then you got the range right next to you. So, which is about a mile that way from my house. So, all right. Next article I got here, Roth IRA Conversions. What are your choices? What are your benefits? If you own an IRA, perhaps you've heard about a Roth IRA conversion. Converting your traditional IRA to a Roth IRA might be a sound financial move depending upon your situation. But remember, this article is for information purposes, not a replacement for real life advice. If a professional should be consulted. I know a guy. Anyways. Also, Roth conversions come under much scrutiny during the past few years. Congress has considered legislation that would prevent high-income Americans from Roth conversions. While no action has taken place, it's possible that Roth rules may change in the future. So why go Roth? Every Roth IRA conversion is based on a belief, the belief that income tax rates will be higher in the future than they are now. If you hold this belief, then you may want to consider a Roth conversion. Once you're 59 and a half and have had your Roth open for at least 5 calendar years, withdrawals on earnings from your Roth IRA are exempt from federal income taxes. In addition, once 5 calendar years have passed, you can withdraw your Roth IRA contributions tax-free and penalty-free. Under current IRS rules, if you are the original owner of the Roth IRA, you never have to make mandatory withdrawals from your account, and you can make contributions to a Roth IRA as long as you continue to have earned income. Oh, somebody misspelled that. Income is with an N. Currently, if your federal tax filing status is married filing jointly and your adjusted gross income or AGI is $204,000 or less, you can contribute a maximum of $6,000. Yeah, we know all about contributions. So why not go Roth? There are many reasons, but here are 2 to consider. You have to be prepared for a taxable event, and time may not be on your side. A Roth IRA conversion cannot be undone. The IRS regards it as a payout from a traditional IRA to that money entering the Roth IRA, and the payout represents taxable income. That taxable income stemming from the conversion could have tax consequences in the year when the conversion occurs. In many respects, the earlier in life you convert to a regular IRA to a Roth, the better. Your income may rise as you get older. You could finish your career in a higher tax bracket than you were in when you were first employed. Those conditions relate to the key argument for going Roth. It is better to pay taxes on IRA contributions today than on an IRA withdrawal tomorrow. On the second hand, since many retirees have lower income levels than their in salaries, they may retire at a lower tax rate. This is the key argument against a Roth conversion. So you have to you could choose to have it both ways. As no one can reliably predict the future of American taxation, some people contribute to both Roth and traditional IRAs, figuring that they can be at least half right, regardless of whether tax increases or decreases. If you go Roth, your heirs may receive tax-free distributions. Lastly, Roth IRAs can prove to be very useful estate management tools. If IRS rules are followed, the Roth IRA heirs may end up with tax-free inheritance from the account. In contrast, distributions of inherited assets from traditional IRA are taxed. So, And so the big thing to think about when doing a Roth conversion is, so let's say you have, I don't know, $500,000 in an IRA and you convert it to a Roth. So let's say you made 100,000 in income and now you have 500,000 income from that Roth conversion. So you just made 600 grand that year. So you're going to have a huge tax bill. So that's, kind of the reasons that a lot of folks, kind of turn up their nose at a Roth conversion. I know back, I was at Ameriprise, so it had to be no later than the end of 2009. The IRS or Congress had changed some of the tax rules around Roth conversions where you could spread out the tax burden over a 3-year period. So again, in that same scenario, you make $100,000 a year, you do a $500,000 conversion, you could spread that 500 grand over 3 tax seasons so that you're not having to pay a huge lump sum all at one time. So it's kind of a, you have to evaluate whether or not it makes sense one way or another. All right. Next article here, major risks to family wealth. Protect your family assets for future generations. All right. Jumping in. All too often, family wealth fails to last. One generation builds a business or even a fortune, lost in the ensuing decades. Why does it happen again and again? Often families fall prey to serious money blunders, making classic mistakes or not recognizing changing times. This article is for informational purposes only and not a replacement for real life advice. Procrastination. This is just a matter of failing to create a strategy, but also failing to respond to acknowledge financial weakness. As a hypothetical example, say there is a multimillionaire named Alan. The designated beneficiary of Alan's 6-figure savings account is no longer alive. He realizes he should name another beneficiary, but he never gets around to it. His schedule is busy and updating that beneficiary form is inconvenient. Alan forgets about it and moves on with his life. However, this can cause significant headaches for those left behind. If the account lacks a payable upon death beneficiary, those assets may end up subject to probate. Using our example above, Alan's heirs may discover other lingering financial matters that required attention regarding his retirement accounts, real estate holdings, and other investment accounts. Minimal or absent estate management. Every year, some multimillionaires die without leaving any instructions for distributing their wealth. These people are not just rock stars and actors, but also small business owners and entrepreneurs. According to a recent caring.com survey, 58% of Americans have no estate preparations in place, not even a will. Anyone reliant on a will alone may risk handling the destiny of their wealth over a probate judge. The multimillionaire who has a child with special needs, a family history of Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, or a former spouse or estranged children may need a greater degree of estate management. If they want to endow charities or give grandkids an excellent start in life, the same idea applies. Business ownership calls for coordinated estate management with consideration for business succession. A finely crafted estate strategy has the potential to perpetuate and enhance family wealth for decades and perhaps generations. Without it, heirs may have to deal with probate and a painful opportunity cost, the lost potential for tax advantage growth and compounding of their assets. The lack of a family office. Decades ago, the wealthiest American households included offices, a staff of handpicked financial professionals who supervised a family's entire financial life. While traditional family offices have disappeared, the concept is as relevant as ever. Today, select wealth management firms emulate this model in an ongoing relationship distinguished by personal and responsive service. They consult families about investments, provide reports, assist in decision-making. If your financial picture has become too far complex to address on your own, this could be a wise choice for your family. Technology flaws. Hackers can hijack email and social media accounts and send phony messages to banks, brokerage, and financial advisors to authorize asset transfers. Social media can help you build your business, but it also can expose you to identity thieves seeking to steal both digital and tangible assets. Sometimes a business or family installs a security system that proves problematic, so much so that it is silenced half the time. Unscrupulous people have ways of learning about that, and they may not be the only 1 or 2 degrees separated from you. No long-term strategy in place. When a family wants to sustain wealth for decades to come, heirs will want to understand that the how and why, and be on the same page. If family communication about wealth tends to be more opaque and transparent, then communication may adequately explain the mechanics and purpose of the strategy. No decision-making process. In some high net worth families, financial decision-making is vertical and top-down. Parents and grandparents make decisions in private and it may become years before heirs learn about those decisions or fully understand them. When heirs do become decision makers, it's usually upon death of the elders. Horizontal decision making can help multiple generations commit to the guidance of family wealth. Financial professionals can help a family make these decisions with an awareness of different communication styles. All right, so that's all the white papers I had. I have 3 short articles I want to breeze through here. I know we're running long, but hey, market was closed. Getting to listen to my beautiful voice for an extra few minutes is excellent, right, guys? I know, even though no one's watching right now. All righty. Let's see. Oil rises as Russia-West standoff alarms tight market. This was written by Noah Browning from Reuters. Oil prices rose on Monday over the standoff between Russia and the West over Ukraine, adding to supply concerns that have kept oil prices near $100 a barrel. Brent crude futures jumped $2.74 or 2.91% to $96.28 a barrel at 2 p.m. today. Let's see. WTI crude futures rose $2.79 or 3.06% to $93.86 a barrel. Also, Russian forces killed a group of 5 saboteurs who breached the country's southwest border from Ukraine on Monday. News agencies quoted the military as saying an accusation that Ukraine called fake news. French President Emmanuel Macron said earlier on Monday that U.S. President Joe Biden and Russian President Vladimir Putin had agreed in principle to a summit over Ukraine, but the Kremlin said there were no immediate plans. The Kremlin announced Putin would sign a decree recognizing 2 breakaway regions in eastern Ukraine as independent. The European Union warned it would consider sanctions if the regions are recognized as independent. Isn't that for Ukraine to decide and those regions to decide? I don't know why we're involved. U.S. markets were closed. Yeah, we know that. Oil prices are once again marching upwards as the optimism of a Biden-Putin meeting fades, while OPEC Plus is continuing to struggle to hit its quotas, which have largely created severe global energy deficit. Ministers of Arab oil-producing countries said on Sunday that OPEC Plus should stick to its current agreement to add 400,000 barrels per day of oil output each month, rejecting calls to pump more to ease pressures on prices. Why would they? They're making a ton of money off of it. Price gains have been limited by the possibility of more than 1 million barrels per day of Iranian crude returning to the market. Iranian Foreign Minister spokesperson Saeed, I'm not even going to try that, said significant progress has been made in talks to revive Iran's 2015 nuclear agreement on Monday, after a senior EU official said on Friday that the deal was very, very close. So excellent. So I don't see any easing in oil prices. Everyone was saying, well, once the Olympics are over, that's when we can expect Russia to invade Ukraine and take over the country. Well, it's almost Monday night there. I haven't seen any headlines that they've come across the border and done anything too reckless. So, all right. Next article: housing prices and interest rates aren't going back down, experts say. This is written by Gabriela Cruz Martinez. This comes from Yahoo Finance. Mortgage rates surged to the highest levels in 2 years, leaving homebuyers on high alert as further increases loom. Things aren't going back down, DBL Financial Services CEO Debbie Boyd told Yahoo Finance Live. So we have to quit thinking about it as a bubble and just start thinking that this is it now. This is the real thing. The rate on a 30-year mortgage, the most common loan for homebuyers, increased to 3.69 last week from 3.55 the previous week. And that's the highest level since January of 2020, well above the average of 2.73 a year ago. The surge in rates followed an increase in the 10-year yields, which rose above 2% for the first time since 2019 this week. Solid employment growth for January and high inflation reports are likely to accelerate the Federal Reserve's plan to increase the benchmark rate to combat inflation. I think we're going to have 3 or 4 hikes this year. Yeah. We're used to historically low rates, though recent rate increases have helped fuel home buying sentiment to plummet. The housing market has remained red hot. If you need a new house, you're going to have to buy a house. If you're moving across the country and have to relocate, you're going to be buying a house, Boyd said. It doesn't matter what the price is. The average sales price across the country for an existing family home rose 14.6% to $361,700 in the fourth quarter of 2021. according to the National Association of Realtors. As a result, entry-level home buying generally spend up to 25.6 of their household income on mortgage payments, further straining affordability for young buyers. Real estate markets are caught in a lopsided dynamic, with many buyers eager to find the right home before rates rise even higher, but very few available homes for sale as a result of almost a decade and a half of underbuilding, says George Ratu, Realtor.com's manager of economic research. Benefits of ultra-low interest rates provided over the last 2 years are wearing off, and affordability is becoming a huge hurdle for many buyers. Still, rates are historically low by comparison. The average rate on a 30-year fixed mortgage reached an all-time high of over 18% in 1981, according to Freddie Mac. We are used to now historically low rates. I remember when I got a 5.5% rate several years ago, like 10 years ago, and that was a great rate, Boyd said. So it's all in what we're used to. We've forgotten that rates were higher than 2% at one time. All right. So that's basically it. Rates and home prices are continuing to climb. And, I know, here in Colorado, I've been sniffing around looking at properties with, larger than 50 or 100 acres. And it's just few and far between, and they get snapped up really, really fast. So, our home, personally, I think home prices will recede in some areas, primarily in the areas where people are evacuating from, the degenerate blue cities, which have high crime and crappy people. Those areas, I think the values of those properties will probably fall. And, to areas like the suburbs and the more rural communities, places like where I live, I just don't see, they may slip for a little bit, but, as long as, homes sell here within 7 days, I just don't see prices receding in the rural communities anytime soon. All right. Last article I got comes from Barron's, has to do with Social Security. Go ahead, retire at 62 and claim Social Security at 67. Your benefit will climb. All right. So the question, I'm planning to retire at 62, but I won't collect Social Security until I'm 67. Will I still get an increased benefit even though I haven't worked in the last 5 years? The short answer is yes. Retirees who begin collecting Social Security at 62 instead of at full retirement of 67, those born 1960 or later, can expect their monthly benefits to be 30% lower. So delaying claiming until 67 will result in a larger monthly check. Working until age 67 could also increase your Social Security benefits, especially if you have a high salary or have gaps in your work history. Social Security benefits are calculated by using your average indexed monthly earnings during the 35 years in which you earned the most money. Working fewer than 35 years results in a lower monthly benefit because you have years that count as zero. Once you've hit the 35-year threshold, working until 67 could raise your monthly benefit by increasing the average amount you earned during your best 35 years. However, the increase in benefits by working until 67, either to fill in gaps in work history or to maximize high earnings, would likely be nominal, according to Ryan Schuchman, investment advisor at Cornerstone Financial Services. To illustrate this point, Schuchman considered a typical 62-year-old worker who made $85,000 last year and plans to collect Social Security at 67. If that employee continues to until 67 in order to meet the 35-year threshold, his monthly Social Security check would likely be $140 higher, he says. But if the employee had already reached his 35 years, then working until 67 likely would increase his monthly benefit by less than, say, $90. If you hit your 35-year threshold, I would say continuing to work has a nominal impact. Question, what's a tax-efficient way to protect the holdings in my taxable investment account from inflation? Oh, that has to do with investments. So I'll leave that out since I was more concerned about Social Security. So like they said, Social Security is based upon your highest 35 years of employment. So, as long as you've filled up those 35 years, working an extra 5 years, hey, if you want to work, do it. I'm not going to talk anyone out of working every day. So, if you work on your, if you have a job like mine where you work on your own terms, you make your own hours, you get to work with the people you want to work with, as opposed to just being, you work at a bank and whoever walks in the door, you're just stuck working with them. Continue to work. I mean, you can continue to work, while you're collecting your Social Security check. If it's still going to be there, I personally don't think, I just turned 48 last Tuesday. Social Security is not going to be there. I have zero confidence in it. When the government finally crashes the dollar at some point in the next decade, I think we'll probably do something for those who are seniors at this point to bridge that gap. But yeah, I'd like my money back from the Treasury at this point because I could have put that into an annuity or, an IRA, and I'd have a lot more money today. So, all right, well, that's everything I had for Monday. I only managed to go for 30 minutes. Woohoo! And so, but anyways, like I said, I wanted to get out this information. Didn't have any markets to talk about today as far as performance. So anyways, all right, well, I hope everyone has a fantastic week. We are due for some cold weather. We got a cold front coming through, so if you are east of us or south of Colorado, there is some super cold weather. I think we have several lows over the next couple of days that are in the negatives Fahrenheit, and I think our highs are going to be like 10, 7, stuff like that. So it's we're not going to get a lot of snow, maybe 3 or 4 inches over the next 2 or 3 days, but it's going to be very, very miserable here. So like I said, my friends to the east of us and south, be prepared. You may want to go to the grocery store today and get stocked up. I went out and ran to Safeway quickly to get some milk and stuff, or not milk, bread and things like that, just because if we're trapped here till Thursday, I didn't want to run out of anything. So, all right. Well, I hope everyone has a fantastic evening, and I will be back tomorrow with the Liberty Call. Let's hope the markets are good, and let's hope that the Russia-Ukrainian situation stays calm. And I will talk to you tomorrow afternoon.